Welcome to the VetFarm Network, the podcast powered by Addie's Orchard and Veterans in Farming, where we support veteran farmers in Indiana and across the U.S. through online and in-person learning about sustainable agriculture, farm business development, and resources for both beginning and longtime growers. This podcast is your quick dive into a program, a resource, or an opportunity that could move your farm forward. I'm your host, Kate Bowen, and today we're joined by Shane Johnson, the State Outreach Coordinator for USDA NRCS Indiana. Whether you've heard of EQIP, CSP, or conservation plans and haven't taken that first step, or you've worked with NRCS before and you want to know what's new, this conversation is going to be a great place to start. Before we get into it, here's a couple of quick announcements. The 12th annual Salute to Veterans Charity Golf Outing is happening Friday, May 9th at Brookshire Golf Club in Carmel, Indiana. Come out, play, or sponsor and support the mission. And if you want to see EQIP in action, join us for a high tunnel build on May 14th and 15th in Anderson, Indiana, hosted by Jack's Farm. It's a hands-on learning event for veterans and their families. Details and registration are at Veterans in Farming, vetsinfarming.com, or Addie's Orchard at addiesorchard.org. All right, let's get into it. Shane, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do as a state outreach coordinator for NRCS Indiana?
Yes, so I've been with NRCS for about 7 years now. I joke that this is my second chapter in life. So like many of you, I'm a beginning farmer as such. I was in manufacturing for over 20 years and decided I needed a career change. And the way it worked out, I ended up in conservation. Actually, I worked for a large farmer as a farmhand, and then actually moved into a local county office, and then ended up with NRCS. So, NRCS looks at a beginning farmer, at anybody that's been farming for less than 10 years. And so I'm kind of in that same category with a lot of you that have been less than 10 years in the farming or conservation world. So, as an outreach coordinator, it is my job to reach folks like you. We have our normal flow of customers that come in. They're already FSA or Farm Service Agency customers that are very versed in the ag world and the funding that's there. And so NRCS is just we call it a sister agency that shares an office. And so many of our traditional farmers are already aware of us, but it's my job to reach those new farmers that don't even know who USDA is, or they're small enough they think all I have is a backyard garden. Why would I go to the USDA office? And it's kind of my responsibility to go to events and things and say, hey, if you own land, or you don't even have to own land, if you're farming, come see us and you might qualify for some of our services. So that's a little bit about what I do as an outreach coordinator.
Awesome. For someone who's never worked with NRCS before, what kinds of support or programs might be available? What are the most sort of popular things that people are asking about when they walk in those doors?
So NRCS basically provides two different services. We provide financial assistance in the form of cost share. A lot of people like to use the word grant, and it's not a grant. It's a financial assistance cost share type program. It is competitive, but I think a lot of times when you think of a grant, the application process for grants can be just crazy stupid, really. And our application is very simple to get into the program. And so by financial assistance, our target is like a 75-25 split. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's kind of the average. So we have the financial assistance, and we have two different buckets, if you want to call them that. We have what everybody refers to as EQIP, and then we also have what's called CSP. And then the other side of that is we have technical assistance. So the neat thing about that is you don't have to apply for any financial assistance to get the technical assistance. So if you're new, starting out, and you're having issues or you have concerns about your farm, you can come to us and say, hey, these are the issues I'm having. Can you help me? And the technical assistance is free. We're all paying for it by paying our taxes. And so, it can be as simple as a district conservationist coming out and walking through your farm and giving you suggestions to something that might require one of our engineers to come out and actually do a design, but that is all still free.
So what would be the first step for someone who's interested in getting conservation help or funding? They've never worked with you before. They've maybe never worked with Farm Service Agency before. What would that look like?
The first step is visiting one of our offices. In Indiana, we have an office in almost every county. We have a few counties that we are called co-located. So they share an office between two counties, but for the most part, every county has an office. And again, we're a sister agency of the Farm Service Agency. So they're the ones that have the big sign. I mean, you have the big USDA sign. Seems like the FSA sign is then, the next biggest sign. And then NRCS is this little sign, because when you walk into the USDA building, you may have 5 to 8 FSA people sitting, where you can, and then NRCS will have 1, maybe 2 individuals in an office as well. So the first step is literally just finding your local office. You can, if you just Google NRCS Indiana, and you'll get there pretty quick, where you can put in the county that you're located in, and it'll direct you to where your office is at, gives you the address and everything. So your first step is literally just coming in and seeing us.
Awesome. So a lot of folks hear about getting a conservation plan. What does that exactly mean, and what does that look like, and the time frame for putting together something like that?
So a conservation plan is put together by you, the landowner, the farmer, and the district conservationist. And so I guess maybe I should say, so every county has a district conservationist. We like acronyms in the government world, so we call them DCs very often. So every county has a DC that covers that county. They're a college trained ag professional. And so they'll come out to your farm, meet with you one-on-one, walk your farm with you, sit down at your kitchen table, however you prefer, and talk about what you're doing currently, what your goals are, and then the issues that you are currently having. And so the district conservationist and you will come up with a plan on how to address the concerns you have, the things you need to do to move forward. And by conservation plan, we're looking at, we are very big in obviously soil and water conservation. That's what we're focusing on. So soil health, keeping our runoff water clean, things like that. So we're looking at, depending on how big your farm is, no-till, or even if you have a garden, minimal till as much as you can. Cover crops, we're very, very big fan of keeping something green, living year round to help with erosion issues, and also building biomass in your soil. If you're into grazing, if you have animals that graze, we can help with rotational grazing so that you don't destroy and hurt your pastures. Interseeding, so you can get a biodiversity mix that's growing that your livestock will like to eat. So those are the things that we can address, and that's what goes into your plan. Time frame, that's a little bit trickier. I'll be honest, our staff is sometimes has a full plate in front of them. And so you have to, one thing with us, and I always like to stress, is you have to plan ahead. So here we are, April 1st, actually. And if you're thinking, man, I really want to start these things right now, the weather's breaking, I'll get with NRCS and we'll get rolling here in April. That's probably not going to happen. I'll be very honest. I'm not saying you can't have an initial visit within, the first few weeks, but the plan is a process. So, it'll take a visit. And if you're looking at actually going through the financial assistance, you will be looking at 2026 before you would even see any assistance if you applied right now. So basically, we take applications all year long. Our deadline will be sometime in December. It's kind of a moving date, but it's usually in December. And then all the other processes would happen throughout the winter, and funding would start next year. So you have to plan ahead with us. It's not something, now you can get the technical assistance and we'll work with you as fast as we can. But if you're looking for the financial assistance, it'll be a longer process.
Are there any programs or priorities that specifically benefit military veterans, or how is that defined?
So
Okay.
yeah, so just like beginning farmers that are veterans, um, basically you kind of look at it like you earn extra points. So um, our funding is dictated by the Farm Bill from Washington. And so within the Farm Bill, they cut out percentages. And I believe, like for beginning farmer, we're supposed to allocate 5% of the funding to beginning farmers. And I believe it's the same way with veterans. So when you fill out your application, there's a box there you literally have to check. It's self-certified. You don't have to have any documentation. You just say, and again, that's a 10-year window. So if you anytime, so you qualify as a veteran, beginning farmer, if you anytime with that, either when you got out of the service, or actually it's when you got out, is 10 years on. So it just gives you, it just puts you in a higher ranking compared to somebody that is not a veteran. So it literally is just as simple as checking a box.
So what advice would you give a veteran who is just starting their farm? Maybe they've been homesteading for a couple years, but they're wanting to really pull some income from a farm, really treat it like a business. Where would you send them? Where would you advise them to sort of begin?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. It, there's so many variables, I guess, into what they're actually doing. Just reaching out to the district conservationists, reaching out to NRCS and inviting them out. I know a lot of times there's a fear of, oh, I don't want the government involved. I don't want them to know what I'm doing. And I truly believe that, when I wear an NRCS shirt and I have the NRCS logo, I'm very proud of what we do because we are one of the government agencies that's actually giving back. We're not asking anything from you. We're not, we're not the IRS, one of those dreaded, agencies that we have to have. We're one of those agencies again that's giving back, and doing something positive. So by asking us to come onto your farm and to walk with you and talk with you and learn about your operation, we're not there to judge you. We're not there to tell you, oh, you're doing this wrong, or oh, you're doing that right, because just like so many things, there's multiple ways to do what you're trying to do. And we can give you, suggestions of things we've seen. Obviously, we can give you scientific suggestions on how things you can do if you're struggling with your pasture, and seed mixes that can help with your pasture. And, you can do soil tests and different things. So the biggest thing you can do is just ask for that help. And I guess ask for that assistance. Maybe helps, has a stigma to it. Just ask for that assistance for somebody to come along and help answer those questions. And like you've heard many times, there's never a dumb question. So just feel free to reach out.
And we talk a lot about beginning farmers, but we also do have some members who have been farming for years. They have a long history of farming in Indiana with their families. Um, for those farmers, is there something that you've seen them often miss out on that are available programs? These might be row crop farmers or cattle farmers. They have a farm number, they're already established with FSA. um, they already, they might participate in some crop insurance programs or those kind of things. But is there something else that you feel like they could use a refresher on, or there's an opportunity that they don't always use that's out there for them?
Well, really to me, one of the biggest opportunities, and we've kind of changed our philosophy, even in my short time with being in NRCS, is our CSP program, conservation stewardship program. And why I bring it up is, like you said, you've been farming, you've got everything under control. You're doing things right. I mean, you may hopefully you are a no-tiller and you are doing cover crops, and you're like, I'm already doing everything that NRCS, promotes. I've taken care of my erosion, I've put in waterways, and I've done all these cool things. I don't need them anymore. Well, the cool thing about CSP is it's a 5-year contract, and it gives you an annual payment to basically continue doing what you're doing. Now, you do have to add in some enhancements to maintain what you're doing, and maybe enhance or do a little bit more, like advance your cover crops a little bit. Instead of doing a one-way species, maybe we could look at a 5-way species. Or if you're a pasture, you got cattle or livestock, and do those interseedings in your pastures and different things. So you do those enhancements, but you're still getting that annual payment for just being in the program. And for the small farmers, and the minimum payment right now is $4,000 a year. So, and there is no minimum size. So back to that small beginning farmer, you've been farming, I believe there's a 2-year requirement for CSP. So, but you've been in it. So even if you're a small, let's call it a backyard farmer, you can still possibly qualify for CSP and get that $4,000 a year to put into your farm. Or if you're that bigger farmer, they take in all your acreage and your payment just goes up from there. I'm not an expert on that to tell you how much it would grow depending on how many acres you have. But the fact is, you would get that $4,000 a year for being in the program, and that's a 5-year program. So to me, that's a huge piece that sometimes gets overlooked. It used to be, the mindset used to be, you did everything in EQIP, and then you rolled into CSP kind of like a graduate course. To be honest, we're kind of pushing CSP just as hard today, even for first time walking in through the door, as we are EQIP. It depends on what you're doing. EQIP pays more for the individual practices, but you don't get that annual payment. With CSP, you get an annual payment, and the enhancements pay less. So you could actually do the same enhancement as a EQIP practice. They could be identical, but the pay rates are going to be totally different because of the overarching annual payment makes a difference.
Wow. So we're recording this early April. Are there any upcoming deadlines or new initiatives that Indiana farmers should be aware of right now?
There's not. Everything for us deadline wise right now, the way the current things are rolling is in the fall. So we're constantly doing site visits and taking in new applications, and that'll happen basically all year long, with deadlines, like I said, again in the fall or late fall, looking at funding for 2026. So everything's already locked in for 2025. So for NRCS, that's pretty much where we're at. I will share though, I mean, with some of our partner agencies, another avenue, especially for the small farmer, is reach out to your soil and water conservation districts. Again, that's a county office. Every county has one. They're county employees, they're county staff, and some of them have their own technicians that can come out and do something very similar. And sometimes they have a little bit more flexibility than our staff does. But then some of them also have mini grants, or that are going to be smaller funding for more specific projects, but it could also help you to accomplish something that you have on your wish list or your goal list. And then the soil and water districts also have, sometimes they have what's called watershed projects, and that just depends on where you're located, but there could be actually state money that is in a grant program that qualifies for that too. So that's the neat thing about Indiana, is our partnerships. We work very tight with each other. A lot of your soil and water conservation districts actually won't be in your county building. You'll have to look and see where they're at. They're actually co-located with us in our USDA building. That's part of our partnerships here in Indiana. So, but those are just a few other pieces, things that you can use to get assistance in both financially and technical.
Thank you. Well, a big thanks to you, Shane, from USDA NRCS Indiana, for taking time to break down how veteran farmers can connect with NRCS and get started with conservation planning, financial assistance, Thank you so much for joining us today. And for details on our upcoming events, including the May 9th charity golf outing and the High Tunnel build in Anderson on May 14th through 15th, visit Veterans in Farming, vetsinfarming.com, or addiesorchard.org. Thanks for listening to Vet Farm Network, where we're growing stronger together. Until next time, farm on.